This is Diamond Coach Curtis. It's October or November already, the 9th. I was doing a series on flips and reflips of your center. So we're back home. We've gone to the crater. We've got our centers. You'll have to learn how to do that if you're not there. But it's back home. What I've done is I discovered when I did my centers of centers, which I have a whole bucket of centers. I come back and you'll see this in the video, and I flip the centers on my table. I went back a couple of days later and I started reflipping what was on the table, which is basically this. And you're going to see me go through and explain this again. You're basically flipping, and this is your what we call a pad, or I never can really remember what we'd call it. It's different names, but this is the leftover. This would be your center that you would have your heavies in. This center here has been flipped several times, but we're basically talking about reflipping the flip. So I did this video, and I'm gonna pick up. I put this back in the front, but I want to just cover what I learned through the process, and then what I later found out. Here's the key to your centers. If you will take and I have a bucket classifier that's a 1/8 classifier. Before you even start trying to flip your centers here, classify your material down by 1/8. Take all your 1/8 material out, and what you're going to end up with is a finer grain. And the reason we want to do that is, remember, your centers are your heavies. So when you did your centers at the crater, you took out the heavies, and you're gonna normally have 1/8 and big. You're gonna have, everything's less than a quarter for most people. So you're gonna have these 1/8 heavies. So everything is heavy. 1/8 heavies are heavier than your little small fine stuff. So when you start flipping centers, they're gonna compete in the center at home. So if you'll go ahead and take your centers bucket, have a 1/8 classifier, and go ahead before you do flips, classify it down, what you'll end up with is just the fine stuff. You're gonna still flip those 1/8s, everything 1/8. You can almost pan search that one. Anything that stays in the 1/8 classifier, you can pretty much pan search it. If you have a bunch, you'll have a bucket of 1/8 classified material, 1/8 and bigger, and then you'll have the fine thing. Now do your flips. Even with the small stuff, the smaller diameter, there's nothing that says that once you flip it once, take the centers out, that you don't regather that stuff and reflip it. And the reason I'm saying that is because with your colors that you'll see here, your centers will be normally target white, but I'm still finding often more colors out here. So I'll just take that whole thing and redo it and reflip it. And that's why I'm saying you can reflip until your centers go clear. You'll see spinel, you'll see some smaller heavies will come maybe 3-4 flips. If you watch Diamond Miner Ivan, he's got a video where he's doing exactly that. And again, this is hindsight. I started noticing it on the table like 3 or 4 weeks ago after like my second trip. And now I've already been on my 4th trip, and it happened again here. And Arkansas Diamond Miner was talking about classifying it. And if you'll watch, before you use your Saruka, classify it. I got that confused with classify, take your centers, classify to 1/8 before you go to the pan, which it does help to have it already classified to 1/8 before you go to the pan, because you're taking all the bigger material off, and it makes your panning a lot easier. You don't have 1/8 material shadowing over the little smaller stuff. So again, I'm reiterating, your best thing to do is to take your material and classify it to 1/8 on your centers before you do your flips at home. If you'll do that, you're going to have consistent material, and your 1/8 or bigger will center up real nice, so you can take that out. And all that 1/8 gravel won't compete with it's a 1/8 gravel could be considered a heavy. You'll see the gravel in the center. That's going to stop it from competing with the smaller diamonds or the smaller heavies. And again, you may flip twice even on the smaller stuff. So I hope that clarifies why this is so important. Why I did this series is because you don't want to, when you're dealing with centers of centers, you don't want to leave a diamond in there because it could not get to the center of your centers because you had so many other heavier centers keeping it on the outside or knocking it down. You can even see, as I pull that up, there's a little crystal. There's still potential in here. So when you're dealing with centers of centers, there's no rule about not reflipping. Reflip until you're confident. At the Crater of Diamond, when you're classifying material, you're going to get a similar bed like this. And if you see the stuff on the outside that looks like this, your haze, that's not really worth reflipping. But when centers and heavies and gravels are colorful out here, there's nothing that says you can't reflip that to make sure you've got all the goodies out of it. Because a lot of times the diamonds will stay on the outside of what I call the target or the white ring. A lot of diamonds are found outside of that actual center. So flip and reflip until you're confident and you know what you're doing. Classify down to 1/8, get the material all the same size, and you're going to increase your chances of making better centers. Okay, this is Diamond Coach Curtis. Today is October 27th, 2020. I just got out here and I went Saturday to the Crater Diamonds, and I had flipped all my centers, and I had a pile of padding or whatever we call it. This was the remains. Well, I got out here and just decided to do some flips, and I literally took what I had for my what I had flipped on Saturday, and I put it over here, took a bunch of it out of the center, and I used my Saruka, and I've already flipped. This is what I'm seeing in my centers from what was left on the table. So it kind of concerns me that if I was in maybe a lot of good gravel, and even though I'm using a Saruka and I'm flipping, I'm missing something. So I've already done like 2 flips, and I've got centers with all this calcite and gravel in there, and I'm still flipping. I've still got more flips to do. But I wanted to take the chance to just document it, and let's see what we find. I'm not seeing any diamonds in there, but with that much in there, I could have missed one. Now, I typically take everything that I've done on this table, and I still spread it out on a board in the sun, and I'll go through it. You kind of can see over there. I let that dry. I'm not as concerned about it, but that was from a previous visit, and then I'll still kind of pan through it and make sure I don't miss a diamond, and that's simple. But what I'm fixing to do is go ahead and take those centers, and I'm going to show you how I use the Saruka, and that way we'll have it on video. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get these, what's left of these centers, I'm going to go ahead and get this out. I'm going to put them over in my bucket. I like to use the scoop. You actually want to get down in there pretty deep, because I think when you're doing a flip, I've just been seeing when that diamond could be on top, but it could dive into when it hits. That diamond can go in a good center, and I got all this out of the snake pit, east drain, and I found a lot of garnets. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is get my Saruka. I've been putting about 3 scoops. They've been heavy scoops. So I'm going a little lighter. Or I do about 4. But in this case, I'm doing about 3. 3 fulls. That's about 3 full scoops. we're going to take this over here to the little pond that I have set up on the table. And you're going to drop it down in the water. You know, I'm giving it about 5 good shakes now. And then I'm bumping it down. And as I'm bumping it down, I'm turning it. One, two, three, 4, 5. And I'm getting a little more water on here. That water is what's going to actually cause any diamond or heavies to move. I was always told you want to really have this full, but I'm thinking if you've got a lot of good material, that too full is going to actually interfere. They're going to bump into each other, and that may have what happened. So, you know, I'm only 1 month into doing this, but I'm doing these videos because so many people are still showing up at the crater without the equipment, not even a basic screen set, and they really don't know what they're doing. You do the same thing that I'm doing here with your basic screen set. The important thing is to drain that water out. Just turn it up, let that water, that's going to keep, the drier this is, the tighter it's going to stay in your pattern. So folks, this is what we call the flip. You have your bed of lamprite. You know, you can usually find that on somebody on the table. Don't do it on anybody that's working in the table if you're at the crater. You know, but you can pick this up. You can pick this up around the tables or whatever. If you know somebody's left. And the flip is basically, you want it toward you, and you flip toward you, and there's my flip. You can see the center still kind of got, it's a little loose in there. But all this material here is mostly calcite, but I was seeing some crystals. And it's just a chance there could be something in it. And I'm gonna center this again. I'm gonna take what I've got in my black bucket here, and I'm gonna flip that again. And I'm probably gonna let them dry a little more in between and scoop them out. And that way I'm getting a little bit better response. But I'm just curious if there's anything in there. Okay, so what we're looking here is a flip of the centers of centers from what was on my bed material. So, you know, that has got a lot of calcite, and you know, this may not be an indicator because all my heavies should have went through, but I did find some pretty crystal quartz that was sitting on the table outside, and that's what made me decide to go back through my bed that I just did all my centers through. And again, I'm thinking if you're digging in a good location, you could be getting into some, everything is so heavy and compacted. And I'm looking at this with my little magnifying glass set. You know, do you see a diamond? Is there anything there? But I'm going to let that one dry a little bit better, and I'm going to look it over, and I'll put it on the pan and see if I've got anything. It'd be nice to find out that, you know, you do have something, and this may be a wasted step, but at the same time, you know, what else are you doing between your next visit? But I definitely recommend you take all of your leftovers and just spread them out on a pan or out on a big piece of plywood. You paint it black, and you know, go back through it and look at it. It gets you ready for the next time.